The Flames of Defiance. Grand Admiral Kaz Thul stood on the command bridge of the Eternal Ember, pride of the Pyrian Dominion's fleet. His species had conquered a third of the known galaxy through their mastery of thermal technology. The Pyrians were living fire, their bronze-scaled bodies naturally resistant to extreme temperatures, their ships powered by miniature suns, their weapons channeling the raw power of plasma and flame. Another system claimed for the Dominion, Kaz Thul announced, watching as the holographic display showed their 20-ship armada entering orbit around a resource-rich planet at the edge of uncharted space. Begin resource evaluation and... Admiral. His sensor officer interrupted. Unknown vessel approaching from the fifth planet. Configuration matches nothing in our database. Kaz Thul's inner membranes flicked across his eyes, a gesture of curiosity. Display. The hologram shifted to show a sleek, gunmetal gray ship with smooth lines and minimal external features. It was elegant but utilitarian, only a quarter the size of the Eternal Ember. Life signs? The Admiral asked. Organic. Carbon-based. Temperature readings suggest. Mammals. Kaz Thul's mouth twitched in amusement. Mammals had never developed significant spacefaring civilizations before. Their bodies were too fragile, too dependent on narrow temperature ranges. The few mammalian species encountered by the Dominion had quickly submitted rather than face the Pyrians' thermal weaponry. Open communications, he ordered. Let's see what primitive species has wandered into our territory. The hologram flickered, and a face appeared, hairless except for a patch above the eyes, and on top of the head, skin a pale beige, eyes forward-facing. The creature wore a dark uniform with insignias Kaz Thul didn't recognize. This is Captain Elena Reyes of the Earth exploration vessel Prometheus, the alien said in clear, translated speech. We come in peace and seek dialogue with your people. Earth. Kaz Thul had never heard of it. The translator was impressive, though. Perhaps these mammals had some rudimentary technology worth salvaging before they were subjugated. I am Grand Admiral Kaz Thul of the Pyrian Dominion. He responded with practiced authority. You have entered Dominion space. Your vessel and technologies are now property of the Flame Eternal. Surrender and you will be treated with mercy. The alien captain's expression didn't change, but Kaz Thul noticed a subtle shift in posture. Not fear, something else. I believe there's been a misunderstanding, Admiral, she replied. This system isn't claimed by any galactic power according to the Orion cooperative charts. We're here on a scientific mission. Insolence. The Admiral's temperature rose involuntarily, heat radiating from his scales. The Dominion does not recognize your cooperative. Our claim is established by presence and power. You have one planetary rotation to power down your systems and prepare for boarding, or we will demonstrate that power. He cut the transmission before the mammal could respond. These encounters followed a predictable pattern. Initial resistance followed by capitulation once the Pyrian thermal arsenal was displayed. No species could withstand concentrated stellar fire. Prepare a demonstration, he ordered his weapons officer. Target their propulsion systems with a low-yield plasma lance. Let's show these mammals what they face. Elena Reyes switched off the communication display and turned to her bridge crew. Well, that went about as expected, she said with a grimace. Her first officer, Commander Okafor, shook his head. Typical. Find a new species, try to be diplomatic, get threatened with annihilation. Tuesday as usual. What do we know about them? Elena asked her science officer. Lieutenant Commander Chen studied his console. Based on visual data and environmental readings from their ship, they appear to be reptilian, adapted to extremely high temperatures. Their technology seems to harness thermal energy in ways we haven't seen before. Those ships are basically flying stars, Captain. They think that makes them invincible, Okafor muttered. Elena nodded thoughtfully. Fire. They've built their entire civilization, their identity around it. She turned to her tactical officer. Lieutenant Park, what's your assessment? Park's fingers danced across her console. 20 ships, heavily armed with what appear to be directed plasma weapons. Their shielding is formidable, but... She paused. It's specifically designed to withstand heat. Standard ballistics and kinetics might be surprisingly effective. They're preparing to fire, Chen announced suddenly. Elena didn't hesitate. Defensive pattern Delta. Activate thermal absorption arrays. The Prometheus shuddered as a blinding beam of white-hot plasma struck its port side. For a moment, the bridge crew squinted against the glare reflected on their view screen. Then nothing. Damage report, Elena asked calmly. None, Captain, Chen replied, sounding almost surprised. The thermal arrays absorbed 97% of the energy. Our heat sinks are at 38% capacity. Elena allowed herself a small smile. As expected, humans have been playing with fire for a long time. She toggled the communication system. Admiral Kaz full. This is Captain Reyes. I believe there's been a misunderstanding about our capabilities. We'd prefer peaceful dialogue, but we're prepared to defend ourselves if necessary. The Pyrian Admiral's face appeared on screen, his scales glowing with obvious heat. Impossible, he hissed. No species can withstand the Dominion's thermal lances. Humanity has a long history with fire, Admiral, Elena replied evenly. It was our first and greatest technology. We've had thousands of years to understand it, respect it, and overcome it. Casfol's inner membranes flicked rapidly. A lucky defense. You cannot withstand the full might-off. Lieutenant Park, Elena interrupted. Please demonstrate our thermal redirection system. Target, Captain. The uninhabited moon. Make it impressive. The energy absorbed from the Pyrian attack was channeled through the Prometheus's specialized systems, amplified, and released in a concentrated beam that struck the small airless moon. The impact created a blinding flash visible to both ships, and when it cleared, a crater 5 kilometers wide had been melted into the lunar surface. The bridge of the eternal ember fell silent. That was approximately 30% of your attack's energy, Admiral, Elena explained. We could have directed it at your ship, but that's not our way. The Prometheus is an exploration vessel, but I should warn you that our military ships are considerably better armed. Casthol's expression was unreadable to human eyes, but his scales had dimmed to a dull bronze. You absorbed our fire and repurposed it. Elena nodded. One of many thermal technologies we've developed. Now, shall we discuss peaceful cooperation, or would you prefer a demonstration of our offensive capabilities? In his private chambers, Grand Admiral Kaz Full reviewed the sensor data for the 12th time. The results didn't change. These humans, these mammals, had not only withstood a Pyrian thermal lance, but had captured its energy and redirected it. It defied everything the Dominion believed about their technological superiority. His second-in-command, Sub-Admiral Vexmore, stood at attention nearby. The fleet awaits your orders, Admiral. Shall we surround the human vessel? Kaz Full hissed softly. No. Order the fleet to maintain position, but take no aggressive action. Admiral. Vexmore's voice betrayed his shock. These creatures have defied the Dominion. The eternal flame demands. The eternal flame demands wisdom. Sub-Admiral. Kaz Full snapped. We face an unknown threat. The humans absorbed our attack without damage. If they can do the same with our entire fleet's weaponry, we risk destruction for no gain. He gestured to the data displays. These readings suggest their ship's hull is composed of materials that absorb and channel thermal energy. Even our scans are being partially absorbed and redirected. We're fighting blind. Vexmore's temperature rose with his agitation. We cannot show weakness. Nor can we show foolishness, Kaz Full countered. I have served the Dominion for 60 cycles. I have conquered 18 species. I know when to strike and when to study. He turned back to the display showing the human ship. Contact our intelligence division. I want everything we can learn about these humans, their homeworld, their technology. We've encountered a species that doesn't fear our fire. Before we confront them again, we must understand why. Over the next several days, an uneasy standoff developed. The Pyrean fleet maintained its position, weapons charged but not targeting the Prometheus. The human vessel made no aggressive moves but conducted what appeared to be scientific surveys of the system's outer planets. Intelligence officer Zarleth entered the Admiral's chambers with uncharacteristic hesitation. The preliminary report on the humans. Admiral Kaz Hull took the data crystal and inserted it into his console. Summarize. The species originates from a planet they call Earth. Oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere, moderate temperatures, high water content. What's remarkable is their evolutionary history with fire. Kaz Hull leaned forward. Explain. Unlike our species, which evolved in volcanic regions where heat resistance was necessary for survival, humans had no natural defenses against fire. Yet archaeological evidence suggests they began controlling it nearly 1 million years ago. The Admiral's inner membranes flicked. How? Without heat resistance, through tool use and innovation, they learned to create, contain, and extinguish fire long before they developed what we would consider civilization. Their entire technological development has been intertwined with mastering an element that could instantly kill them. Zarleth continued, more concerning is their adaptability. Humans evolved to survive in environments ranging from near freezing to desert heat. They've engineered solutions to live in space, underwater, even in radioactive zones. And their weapons? Diverse beyond anything in the Dominion. While we perfected thermal technology, they explored countless alternatives: kinetic, chemical, biological, electromagnetic. Their military history suggests they never stop innovating, especially when threatened. Casfall studied the images on his display. Humans working in foundries surrounded by molten metal, firefighters rushing into burning buildings, scientists handling plasma in containment fields. They don't control fire as we do, he realized. They coexist with it. They've built their civilization around managing something that could destroy them at any moment. Yes, Admiral, and there's one more thing. Zarleth hesitated. Our long-range scans have detected additional human vessels entering the system. Larger vessels. Military configuration. Hull felt a chill despite his species' natural heat. A species that mastered fire without natural protection, that turned weaknesses into strengths, that absorbed attacks and redirected them. Send a communication to the human captain, he decided. Request a formal meeting. I believe the Dominion's approach to this species requires reconsideration. As Zarleth left to transmit the message, Casful studied the image of the Prometheus once more. The Pyrean Dominion had conquered through the power of flame, believing no species could resist their thermal might. But these humans hadn't just resisted fire. They had tamed it. The Forge of Alliance, the diplomatic chamber aboard the Pyrean command ship Eternal Ember, had been modified to accommodate human physiology. The temperature, normally kept at levels that would scorch human flesh, had been reduced to what the Pyreans considered uncomfortably cold. Atmospheric processors added oxygen and reduced sulfur compounds. These concessions were unprecedented in Dominion history. Captain Alina Reyes noticed these accommodations as she led her small delegation aboard. She wore her formal uniform rather than an environmental suit, a calculated risk to demonstrate trust, though her medical officer had insisted on dermal protective treatments beforehand. Grand Admiral Kaz Thal awaited them, his bronze scales dulled to conserve heat in the cooler environment. He stood flanked by Sub-Admiral Vexmore and Intelligence Officer Zarleth, both visibly uncomfortable with the reduced temperature. Captain Reyes. Casful greeted her with a formal bow. Welcome aboard the Eternal Ember. Elena returned the gesture. Admiral Casful, thank you for the invitation and for adapting your environment for our comfort. A necessity for productive dialogue, the Admiral replied smoothly, though Elena detected what might have been embarrassment in his tone. Being forced to accommodate another species contradicted everything the Dominion stood for. They seated themselves at a circular table of polished obsidian. Embedded heating elements kept the Pyrian side comfortable, while cooling systems did the same for the humans. "I'll be direct, Captain," Casful began. "Our initial approach was misguided. The Dominion has encountered many species, but none with your capabilities regarding thermal energy." Elena nodded. "We've faced the destructive power of fire throughout our evolution, Admiral. It's shaped our technology, our culture, even our mythology. So our intelligence suggests." Casful tapped a control, bringing up holographic images of human history. Ancient humans huddled around campfires, medieval blacksmiths, modern firefighters rushing into burning buildings. "Your species lacks natural protection against high temperatures, yet you've integrated fire into your development more thoroughly than any species we've encountered." "Necessity drives innovation," Elena replied. "When something can kill you, you learn to master it or work around it." Zarleth leaned forward. "Our analysis shows your ship's thermal absorption system utilizes principles we've never considered. Rather than deflecting energy as our shields do, you capture and repurpose it." Commander Okafor, the Prometheus's first officer, smiled. "A technology initially developed for climate control on Earth. When you're trying to prevent a planet from overheating, you get creative about energy management." Sub-Admiral Vexmore's scales flared with heat, a sign of agitation. "You expect us to believe your defensive capabilities were developed for weather control. Many of humanity's greatest innovations came from solving problems unrelated to warfare," Elena explained. "Our thermal technology began with environmental concerns, expanded through our fusion energy program, and eventually found military applications." Casful studied Elena carefully. "This contradicts everything the Dominion believes about technological evolution. We developed our thermal mastery for conquest, to expand the Dominion's reach. Different evolutionary paths lead to different perspectives, Admiral," Elena said. "Humans had to respect fire's destructive potential while harnessing its benefits. We couldn't physically withstand it like your species, so we had to understand it at a fundamental level." The Admiral's inner membranes flicked rapidly, a sign of deep thought. "And your military vessels? The ones that have recently entered this system?" Elena had expected this question. "They're here as a precaution, not a threat. Standard protocol when first contact becomes complicated." "Their capabilities? Significantly greater than the Prometheus," she acknowledged. "But we'd prefer not to demonstrate them." Tension crackled in the air like static electricity. The future relationship between humans and Pyrians would be determined in these moments. Intelligence officer Zarleth had never seen the Admiral so restrained. Typically, Castul would have ordered an attack at the first sign of a military threat. Instead, he seemed fascinated by these soft-skinned mammals who showed no fear of Pyrian might. "I propose an exchange," the Admiral said finally. "A demonstration of technologies. Not weapons. Knowledge." Captain Rice raised an eyebrow. "What do you suggest?" "Our scientists have been analyzing your ship's response to our thermal lance. We believe we understand the principles, but not the application. Show us how you redirect energy so efficiently, and we will share our advances in plasma containment." Zarleth was shocked. The Dominion never shared technology, especially not its prized plasma systems. Yet the Admiral seemed genuinely interested in what these humans could teach them. The human captain considered for a moment, then nodded. A limited exchange would be acceptable as a gesture of good faith. What followed was unprecedented in Dominion history. Human engineers worked alongside Pyrian scientists, each explaining fundamental concepts that the other species had never considered. The humans' approach to thermal energy focused on efficiency and redirection, while the Pyrians had perfected raw power and sustainability. Zarleth observed these interactions with growing fascination. The humans asked questions that no Pyrian would think to ask, approaching problems from angles that seemed absurd until they proved effective. And they did it all while their bodies were extraordinarily vulnerable to the energies they manipulated. They should have burned themselves out long ago, Zarleth commented privately to the Admiral later. Their homeworld's resources, their fragile bodies, everything about them suggests they shouldn't have survived, let alone reached the stars. That is precisely what makes them dangerous, Casfold replied, watching a holographic simulation where human and Pyrrhian technologies were being theoretically combined. They turned what should be fatal weaknesses into strengths. The Sub-Admiral believes we should still consider military action, Zarleth said carefully, while their ships remain outnumbered. Casthol's scales darkened. Vexmore is a skilled tactician, but a poor strategist. He sees only the immediate battlefield, not the long war. You believe conflict is inevitable. I believe, the Admiral said slowly, that the Dominion must adapt or face extinction. These humans have encountered only a small portion of our fleet, yet they've already demonstrated technology that negates our primary advantage. Imagine if they became hostile. Zarleth couldn't suppress a thermal shudder. What will you recommend to the High Command? Something unprecedented, Casfold replied. Something that will either secure my place in Dominion history or end my career. 3 days into the technological exchange, Captain Reyes received a request for a private meeting with the Admiral. She found him in an observation dome overlooking the gas giant around which their ships orbited. The massive planet's swirling storms cast prismatic light across the chamber. Magnificent, isn't it? Thull said without turning. A natural fusion reactor. My ancestors believed such celestial bodies were the physical manifestations of the eternal flame. Many human cultures had similar beliefs, Alina replied, joining him at the viewport. Fire as a divine force, creator and destroyer. Yet you conquered it without worshipping it. We never truly conquered fire, Admiral. We respect it. We understand its nature. But we don't control it. We work with it. Around it. Through it. Casfold turned to face her. That is what I wish to discuss, Captain. The Pyrrhian Dominion has expanded through the galaxy based on a single principle, that our mastery of thermal energy makes us unstoppable. We believed our evolutionary advantages and technological focus made us superior. And now? Alina asked quietly. Now I understand we have been limited in our thinking. Your species has developed approaches to energy manipulation that our scientists consider revolutionary. Not because you are inherently more intelligent, but because your very vulnerability forced innovation. He gestured toward the viewport where both fleets were visible against the backdrop of stars. I have submitted a formal recommendation to the High Command. The Dominion will withdraw its claim to this system and propose a non-aggression pact with humanity. Alina couldn't hide her surprise. That's significant progress from our first encounter, Admiral. It is pragmatic, Casfold replied. The Dominion expands through strength, but true strength lies in recognizing new realities. A conflict between our species would be devastating to both sides. I agree, Alina said carefully, but non-aggression is just the beginning. There's potential for cooperation, for mutual benefit. Casthol's scales shifted color slightly. A sign Alina had learned indicated consideration. What do you propose? A joint research initiative. Both our species have specialized in thermal technology, but from completely different perspectives. Together, we might develop applications neither could achieve alone. The High Command would never agree to share our most advanced technologies. They don't need to, Alina countered. We start with theoretical work, shared academic knowledge. Build trust gradually. The Admiral was silent for a long moment, his gaze returning to the gas giant's swirling storms. There is wisdom in your approach, Captain. Pyrrhians value stability, sustainability. Our expansion has always been methodical, controlled, like the fires we harness. While humans tend to innovate in bursts, especially under pressure, Alina acknowledged. We're adaptable, sometimes chaotic. There's strength in combining these approaches. And weaknesses to balance, Casfold added. Your proposal has merit. I will include it as a secondary recommendation. Alina smiled. Progress indeed. 1 month later, the newly constructed Joint Research Station, crucible hung in orbit above the system's fourth planet. The facility represented a technological marvel, half maintained at temperatures comfortable for Pyreans, half adapted for humans, with advanced interface systems allowing both species to collaborate without physical risk. Sub-Admiral Vex Moore, now reassigned as military liaison to the project, watched the human and Pyrean scientists with undisguised suspicion. "This cooperation goes against everything the Dominion stands for," he muttered to Zarleth, who had become the project's intelligence coordinator. "The Admiral believes it serves our long-term interests," Zarleth replied. The preliminary results support his position. They observed a demonstration chamber where a human engineer and Pyrean specialist were testing a new containment field. The system combined Pyrean plasma generation with human energy redirection principles, creating a self-sustaining reaction that required minimal input once established. Efficient, Vex Moore admitted grudgingly. But at what cost? "We've revealed technological secrets maintained for generations, and gained insights our scientists estimate would have taken decades to develop independently," Zarleth countered. "The human approach to thermal dynamics has already improved our ship's efficiency by 17%. Their conversation was interrupted as Grand Admiral Kaz Hull entered the observation deck, accompanied by Captain Rice and several high-ranking officers from both species. "The High Command has ratified the treaty," Kaz Hull announced. "The Pyrean Human Thermal Cooperative is now officially sanctioned." A ripple of reaction spread through the assembled personnel. Surprise from the humans, shock from many Pyreans. The Dominion had never established a formal cooperative relationship with another spacefaring species before. "Both our peoples have built civilizations around the mastery of fire," the Admiral continued. "Both have faced the void of space with the light of stars as our guide. Today, we acknowledge that different paths can lead to complementary strengths." Captain Rice stepped forward. "This station represents more than scientific collaboration. It's proof that species from vastly different evolutionary backgrounds can find common ground. Humans and Pyreans both understand fire's dual nature, its capacity to create and destroy. Together, we can harness that power more effectively than either could alone." Vex Moore leaned toward Zarleth. "Pretty words, but what happens when our interests inevitably diverge?" Zarleth watched as human and Pyrean scientists returned to their work, already comfortable in routines that would have seemed impossible weeks ago. "Perhaps they won't," he suggested. "The Admiral believes these humans fill gaps in our understanding, just as we fill gaps in theirs. He calls it the completion of the flame. Two approaches to the same fundamental force, combined to create something greater." "Poetic," Vex Moore scoffed. "But the Dominion wasn't built on poetry." "No," Casful said, having approached silently during their conversation. "It was built on adaptation, on identifying strength and incorporating it. The humans don't fear our fire, Sub-Admiral. They respect it, understand it in ways we never considered. In their vulnerability, they found insight." He gazed at the research station's central chamber, where a controlled plasma reaction cast flickering light across faces both human and Pyrean. "We believed fire made us invincible," the Admiral continued. "They learned it could make them innovative. Together, perhaps we'll discover what it can truly become." In the demonstration chamber, the combined technology stabilized, creating a perfect sphere of contained energy, neither fully human nor fully Pyrean in design, but something entirely new. Its light bathed the observation deck, casting shadows that seemed to dance like ancient flames against cave walls, reminding both species of where their journeys had begun and suggesting where they might go together. Around them, the stars burned on, indifferent to borders and species, their fire a reminder that the universe offered endless possibilities to those willing to see beyond their own light.